The most expensive thing you can buy is the opinion that money doesn't matter. You'll hear this phrase from a stage, from someone in a minimalist mansion, or across the table at a restaurant where the water costs more than your lunch. By the end of this, you will understand the precise psychological machinery that makes this statement possible. This is a look at the cognitive architecture of wealth and why the view from the top of the mountain obscures the path it took to get there. And the danger is believing that advice because it's a map for a country you don't live in yet. Money's first job is simple. It buys you insulation from the physical world, it puts a better roof over your head, a more reliable engine in your car, and higher quality food on your table. It's a tool for solving the problems that come from the outside in. Think of it like a soundproofing system. When you don't have it, every external problem is a loud, intrusive noise. A sudden medical bill is a siren. A broken appliance is a slamming door in the middle of the night. The phone ringing from an unknown number creates a physical jolt. This is the chronic, low-grade hum of financial anxiety. It's a background process that consumes bandwidth you could be using for other things: creative work, strategic thinking, or just being present with your family. When someone has enough money, they've installed the highest grade of soundproofing available. The sirens fade, the slamming doors stop. The phone is just a phone. The absence of this noise is a specific kind of quiet. A quiet so profound, the person living inside it eventually forgets the noise was ever there. They get used to the silence, and from inside that silence, they begin to work on different problems. Internal problems. Problems of meaning, purpose, and relationships. And for these problems, money is a clumsy, almost useless tool. It can't buy genuine connection. It can't purchase a sense of purpose. So, they try to use their powerful tool on these new problems, and it fails. They correctly conclude that money doesn't solve their problems. Their mistake is forgetting the huge, exhausting, and relentless category of problems it already solved. But this forgetting is more than just a memory lapse. It's a fundamental shift in the brain's operating system. What happens when the survival engine is finally allowed to idle? Once the soundproofing is installed, the mind turns to a new game. The pursuit of positive feeling. This is where the hedonic treadmill starts spinning. You get the raise, you buy the new car, you move to the bigger house, and for a moment, there is a spike of happiness. It's real, but it's also temporary. The new baseline is quickly established. The 3-bedroom house becomes normal. The German sedan is just what you drive to work. The brain adapts with ruthless efficiency. The person experiencing this cycle runs an experiment over and over. They add more money, they get a temporary boost, and then the feeling recedes. After a decade of this, they come to a perfectly logical conclusion based on their data. Adding more money does little to increase their lasting happiness, and they are 100% correct for their specific situation. They are testing the upside of wealth. They are measuring the effect of going from very comfortable to extremely comfortable. What they can no longer accurately measure is the downside of poverty. They've lost the control group for their experiment. The memory of what it felt like to have the check engine light on for 6 months, praying it wasn't serious, has faded. The feeling of choosing which bills to pay late this month is gone. It's like trying to remember the exact pain of a terrible flu you had 5 years ago. You remember that it was awful. You can list the symptoms, but you can't feel the ache in your bones or the feverish haze. Your current state of health makes the memory abstract. Financial security does the same thing. It's a state of wellness that makes the precise gut-level feeling of financial sickness impossible to simulate. The empathy gap is what scientists call this. Our current emotional and physical state profoundly influences our ability to understand people in other states, including our past selves. Someone who is safe and warm struggles to grasp the single-minded focus of someone who is freezing cold. The person who is financially secure has their brain's resources freed up to contemplate purpose and legacy. The person who is one paycheck away from eviction has their brain's resources dedicated to one thing: survival math. The wealthy person, looking back, has their memory of that survival math overwritten by their current reality. But what if this goes deeper than just forgetting? What if the brain is actively rewriting the story to protect the person's sense of self? Human beings are narrative machines. We need a coherent story to make sense of our lives. For someone who has achieved significant financial success, that story needs to explain how they got there. And there are two competing narratives. The first story is messy. It's full of luck, timing, privilege, and ruthless focus on financial gain. It might involve taking a job they hated for the money or prioritizing wealth acquisition over other values. It's the truth, but it's complicated. The second story is much cleaner. It's a story about passion, purpose, vision, and hard work. In this story, money was never the goal. It was simply a happy byproduct of creating value and following a calling. This is an infinitely more satisfying narrative. It frames their success as a result of their virtuous character. Saying money doesn't matter is a crucial line of dialogue in this second story. It's a piece of evidence submitted to the jury of their own conscience. It reframes past sacrifices. That period of working 80-hour weeks wasn't a desperate grab for wealth. It was a passionate pursuit of a mission. That focus on market demands over personal interest wasn't selling out. It was serving others. This is post hoc rationalization. The brain looks at the outcome, wealth and security, and constructs a noble path to that destination. This process is rarely conscious or malicious. It's a psychological defense mechanism that protects our self-image. It allows a person to see themselves as a good person who happens to be rich, instead of a person who got rich. This is why the advice is so seductive and so dangerous. It's not just a flawed observation, it's a symptom of a deeply rooted self-serving narrative. They aren't lying to you, they've convinced themselves. They've rehearsed the story so many times that it feels more real than the chaotic, complicated reality it replaced. They are teaching you the sanitized version of their history. And when you try to follow that map, you fail, because it leaves out all the parts where they were navigating by a completely different set of stars. They were navigating by the urgent, unglamorous, and deeply important star of financial necessity. So where is the line? At what point does money's role actually change from a primary motivator to a secondary byproduct? Researchers have tried to answer this, and they came back with a number. In 2010, the psychologists Daniel Kahneman and Angus Deaton published a famous study. They looked at the relationship between income and happiness. They discovered two things. First, they looked at life evaluation. How you feel about your life when you step back and think about it. That number kept going up with income, with no clear ceiling. The more money people made, the more satisfied they felt with their life's trajectory. But then they measured something else: emotional well-being. This is how you feel on a day-to-day basis. The joy, the stress, the anger, the affection you experience moment to moment. For emotional well-being, the results were completely different. It rose with income, but only up to a point. That point was about $75,000 a year in 2010. That's about $100,000 today. What that number represents is a kind of financial pain threshold. Below that income level, problems are frequent and intrusive. You're more likely to experience the pain of a car repair you can't afford, or the stress of a medical issue. A lack of money actively creates negative experiences. It amplifies the emotional cost of life's normal misfortunes. Above that threshold, that kind of financial pain largely disappears. More money doesn't make you laugh more or experience more affection. The problems that remain in your life, relationship struggles, health concerns, loneliness, are problems that more money can't fix. This is the statistical backbone of the "money doesn't matter" statement. The people saying it are almost always living far above this income threshold. Their daily emotional landscape is no longer shaped by a lack of money. They are speaking from their lived experience. Their advice is an accurate report from a specific location on the map. But giving that advice to someone below the threshold is like a person in a climate-controlled biodome telling someone in a blizzard that weather isn't a big deal. They are both describing their reality. One of them is just in a position to forget that other realities exist. Critics of this idea often say that plenty of wealthy people are miserable. And they're right. Money does not solve existential dread. It doesn't fix deep-seated insecurity. It can sometimes even amplify those things, removing all the external excuses for one's unhappiness. When you have everything you thought you wanted, and you still feel empty, it creates a unique kind of despair. That experience is real and valid, but it's still a qualitatively different set of problems. It's the challenge of building a life of meaning after the challenge of building a life of survival has been solved. To confuse the two is a profound category error. The statement, "money doesn't matter," is a luxury belief. It's an idea that is convenient for an elite to hold while being actively harmful to those outside of it. It's a form of social camouflage, subtly reframing their privilege as enlightenment. It costs them nothing to believe it. In fact, it pays a dividend in the form of a more flattering self-concept. For someone still struggling, adopting that belief is an act of financial self-harm. It encourages them to deprioritize the very tool that could solve their most immediate and stressful problems. Ultimately, the phrase itself is the final luxury good. It is the verbal equivalent of a designer handbag or a sports car. It's a signal that you have so much of a resource that you can afford to be publicly indifferent to it. It says, "I have solved the problem of money so thoroughly that I no longer even perceive it as a problem." It is the ultimate status symbol, purchased with a currency most people are still desperately trying to earn. And this reveals the final, uncomfortable truth. Money does matter. It matters intensely, right up until the moment it doesn't. And the people who have reached that point have a terrible memory for the journey. So when you hear that phrase, you're not hearing timeless wisdom. You are hearing a report from a destination built on a foundation they can no longer see. The question is, once you build that foundation for yourself, what will your memory be like?